This is a CBS News special report. I'm Kelly O'Grady. Israel says a group of 7 hostages held by Hamas that were taken on October 7th, 2023, 737 days ago, they've now been handed over to the Red Cross. And the rest are expected to be released later this morning. 251 people were abducted more than 2 years ago. It's believed 20 are still alive and at least 25 others are presumed dead. The release is part of a breakthrough deal brokered by the U.S. and other Middle Eastern countries. In exchange for Hamas agreeing to release all remaining hostages, Israel is releasing Palestinian prisoners and agreed to a partial withdrawal from Gaza in this first phase of the plan. Now, thousands of displaced Palestinians started moving back to areas of Gaza as the ceasefire went into effect. Since the October 7th attacks, the Gaza Health Ministry, that's run by Hamas, says Israel's military campaign has killed more than 65,000 Palestinians. There are still many details left to be worked out for the next steps of this peace plan, but this morning, the beginning of a path forward. I want to bring in CBS News contributor Robert Berger. He's joining us from Jerusalem. Robert, you've covered crises in the Middle East for decades. I have to start with the obvious. Does this moment feel different?
Yeah, this is one of the most historic moments I can remember covering the story over 30 years. This is the longest war that we've ever seen. 2 years, exactly 2 years to the day that these about 250 Israelis were taken hostage. And finally, they're coming home today. 7 being released right now on their way to the Israeli military. It's a historic day that goes down among some of the other major historic days, such as the Oslo Accords in 1993, the peace deal with Egypt back in '79. But this is really, we're watching history unfold here. It is, of course, a day of elation in Israel.
And Robert, I'm going to ask you to stay there for a second because I do want to bring in our Haley aunt. She's in Tel Aviv at Hostage Square, where families of hostages, they've gathered throughout the past 2 years. Haley, what's the mood there right now?
Hello. Well, we're joining you over the phone simply because there are so many people here that it's overwhelmed the signal. We got here at about 6 a.m. The square was already pretty much full, and people have just been flowing in all morning long because this is an enormous moment, both for the families of the hostages and for the people here in Israel who have been desperate to get all of the hostage home now for 2 years. Coming to this square throughout the war to protest, to try to demand the kind of deal that we're seeing now, to support one another, to support the hostage families, and today they are flocking here in their hundreds, if not thousands, to be here for this really historic moment.
And Haley, I mean, as you said, right, you're on the phone joining us, and we can hear how difficult it is with the sound. So many people, I'm sure, trying to communicate right now. What info are you getting about the hostages specifically that have been released?
We believe that they're currently en route to Israeli troops, where they will be handed over. There will be medical examinations. They'll be into a base where if they're in a good enough medical condition, they'll be united with their families. So we're currently waiting for news or for confirmation. The Red Cross has handed over those 7 hostages to Israeli soldiers.
And I mean, obviously, it's going to be an emotional moment, Haley, when they reunite. Now, you described for us a little bit of what comes next for those hostages. They're going to be receiving medical treatment. Can you talk about the path forward, right? Beyond that immediate moment, what comes next for these hostages that are finally coming home over 2 years in captivity?
Well, I mean, you can just imagine what some of their experiences have been like. Many of them have been kept underground. The conditions across Gaza have been catastrophic. catastrophic, and they've been living in those very same conditions in captivity. So there will be physical, medical, emotional, psychological needs that all of these hostages will have when they return. And Israel has set up reception centers that have been constructed with just that kind of care in mind. Then what comes next is, I was speaking to a family member of one of the hostages whose remains are being held, and he said this has been a wake-up call for him, for the hostage families, and for all Israelis, that there is serious work that needs to be done here. So once this horrific chapter ends, people have been out protesting their government for about 2 years now, and they believe that there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw video of him being booed when he was mentioned by U.S. Special Envoy Witkoff the other night. So a lot of these hostage families and the people who have been involved in this are politically motivated to make a change here in Israel moving forward.
Yeah, Haley, you mentioned people who are waiting for remains, a juxtaposition of some families expecting joy and reuniting, and some just waiting for a loved one they'll never get to hug again. I want you to stay on the line. We may come back to you, but for those at home, I just want to zoom out for a second, and because President Trump, he is on his way to Israel right now. He's going to meet with hostage families before addressing the Israeli parliament later today. After that, President Trump, he'll head to Egypt for the agreement signing ceremony. And on the plane, he proclaimed the war is over. Now, I want to go back to CBS News contributor Robert Berger. You sort of talked a little bit at the top here of why this moment feels different. But I mean, I've been watching this for the past 2 years. We have seen hostages come home. So what do you think needs to happen for the ceasefire to hold? And do you think that's even likely?
It's going to be difficult, but, just getting the hostages back is a major accomplishment. A lot of people really didn't think we were going to see this day with the last hostages coming back. So that in itself is an achievement that is going to be important. But there is a lot of difficult work ahead. For instance, who's going to rule Gaza? There's supposed to be a committee actually overseen by President Trump and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. There's supposed to be an international force of Arab states that is going to come in and help bring stability to Gaza. That hasn't even started. It's going to take a while for that to happen. And then the biggest question is the disarmament of Hamas, which is part of President Trump's 20-point plan. Hamas hasn't even agreed to that, and that is going to be a big hurdle. But getting the hostages back, I think, ends this phase of the war, and then they're going to try and resolve those other issues, which could be quite problematic down the road.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we could hear, talking to Haley, the joy in the background. This moment, bringing those hostages home, as you mentioned, it is important. It is historic. On the other side, though, you have Palestinians who are coming back to the region, aid coming into Gaza. What lies ahead for them as this peace plan goes forward?
Yeah, the elation that we're seeing here in Israel today is a lot different than the reaction on the Palestinian side. I mean, people, of course, are relieved and happy that this is over, but the Palestinians really have a long and difficult road ahead. I mean, most of Gaza has been destroyed. So while people are streaming back to Gaza City and further north, they don't really have any place to go. Most of the homes have been destroyed. The infrastructure has been destroyed. It's going to take years to rebuild Gaza. So it's a long, difficult road ahead for the Palestinians. Right now, they're going to try and surge in aid, 600 trucks a day or so, get people food. But the path of rebuilding their lives is going to be long and difficult.
You know, going back to this historic moment, I mean, this is a diplomatic feat that administrations, the Biden administration tried to accomplish. What was it about President Trump, his unique deal-making? I mean, a lot of people have questioned his unique style of deal-making, but he has achieved what seemed to have evaded others. What do you think was different this time around?
Well, for one thing, he kept telling Hamas that they had to release the hostages. And a lot of people thought that that couldn't happen until Israel pulled out of Gaza. That was Hamas's demand. First, Israel pulls out of Gaza, and then it agrees to end the war. Trump kept saying that if they don't release the hostages, all hell is going to break loose. Sometimes it was an empty threat, but ultimately, I think the big thing was that Trump was able to get the Arab states on board with all of this. We're talking about the Gulf states. He got Turkey. He got all of the Muslim states, or most of them anyway, to come on board and tell Hamas, okay, it's time to end the war. So, you know, over here, President Trump is going to be welcomed as a hero because he was the one who was finally able to get this done.
And of course, he'll be speaking to the Israeli parliament today and meeting with hostage families, expecting a warm welcome given the feat of this diplomacy. What future, though, do you think Netanyahu has in Israel? I mean, we heard Haley before saying that there were boos when he was mentioned. What are your thoughts there?
Well, Netanyahu isn't finished. Certainly the hostage families and their supporters and the people demonstrating out on the streets for the past year felt that Netanyahu didn't do enough to get the hostages out. He was more interested in defeating Hamas, in keeping his very right-wing coalition together, the partners who said that Hamas has to be destroyed. But, you know, elections are due in about a year, and you can't count Netanyahu out. I mean, according to the polls, the elections are going to be close. Netanyahu still has a base, and the fact that he kept his promise to actually get the hostages home, you know, he's not in such a weak position as you might think. He could win the next election. He's got a lot of accomplishments. He defeated Hezbollah in Lebanon. He took out Iran's nuclear program. He decimated Hamas. So a lot of people hate him, it's true. But a lot of people, he still has a base, and Netanyahu is not finished. He could win the next election in a year. It'll probably be very close.
Robert Berger, so appreciate your insight, having covered this region for so many years on a morning that is historic. Thank you for your time. I want to go back to our Haley Ott. She's in Tel Aviv at Hostage Square. She's on the phone because, as we said before, there is so much communication, people trying to call, so much excitement there as we are getting word that these hostages are coming home. Haley, it's been an emotional 2 years. Some Israelis have described this as nationwide PTSD. You are standing in Hostage Square, which has become a symbol over these 2 years of this conflict, of the grief. How do you think people will process the closure of this chapter?
I think that the idea that the hostages are coming home, and apologies, I'm hearing myself back in my ear, is a kind of closure. But this, as you say, this horrible chapter may be coming to an end, but there's still a long way to go. We were here really shortly after October 7th, and this sort of shock and horror that Israeli society experienced on that day, we witnessed. And then we've been here back multiple times over the course of the war, back to Hostage Square, watching hostage releases. This is something that has shaken this country, shaken this region. Some of what you were discussing earlier about the deal that President Trump was able to work out involving other countries in the region, those changes arguably couldn't
if not for this event. This really has radically changed the status quo here. And, people are so amazed and grateful and shocked that the hostages appear to be coming home. We just need to wait and see what comes next.
And Haley, I want to thank you for battling through the technical difficulties, the noise, because I think having your perspective of what it feels like right now on the ground is so important. So thank you for your time. And to recap, 7 of the hostages taken in the October 7th attacks have now been handed over to the Red Cross. The last group of living hostages is expected to be released shortly. President Trump, he is on his way to Israel before attending an agreement signing ceremony in Egypt. And as we close tonight, the path to peace unfolding this morning, perhaps it provides a glimmer of hope to move forward, for Israelis to heal and for Palestinians to rebuild. We're going to have special coverage later today on CBS Mornings. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Kelly O'Grady.